The rain fell softly over the city, turning streetlights into long yellow lines on the wet road. The night was quiet, too quiet for a place that never truly slept. A single man walked alone on the sidewalk, his jacket pulled tight, his head slightly down. His name was Ethan, and tonight he felt something was wrong. Not danger exactly, but a strange pressure, like eyes pressing against his back. He slowed his steps, listening. Footsteps echoed behind him, slow and careful. He stopped. The footsteps stopped too. Ethan turned around. The street was empty, only rain, shadows, and parked cars. No one stood there, no movement, no sound. He shook his head and told himself it was nothing. People imagine things at night. Still, his heart beat a little faster as he continued walking. A few steps later, the feeling returned, stronger this time, like someone was learning the shape of his walk, the rhythm of his breath. He turned again, faster now. Nothing, just his own shadow stretching and breaking under the streetlight. The city felt different, as if it was holding its breath. Ethan reached the front of his apartment building, an old concrete tower with flickering lights. The door buzzed open, and he stepped inside, leaving the rain behind. The lobby smelled of dust and cold metal. As the elevator door slid open, he hesitated. That feeling followed him inside. He pressed the button for his floor. The doors closed with a dull sound. The elevator began to rise slowly. The mirror on the back wall reflected his tired face, his wet hair, his tense eyes. Then something changed. For a brief moment, the reflection behind him did not move the same way he did. It stood taller, thinner, wrong. Ethan froze. His breath caught in his throat. He stared at the mirror without blinking. The reflection shifted back to normal. Just him again, alone. The elevator continued upward as if nothing had happened. He laughed quietly, forcing the sound out. Lack of sleep, stress, imagination. That was all it was. When the elevator stopped, he stepped out quickly. The hallway lights flickered, casting uneven shadows along the walls. His footsteps sounded too loud in the empty space. As he walked toward his apartment door, the feeling returned one last time. Stronger than ever, closer than ever. His hand shook slightly as he pulled his keys from his pocket. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was dark and silent. Ethan closed the door behind him. Then he stopped breathing. Someone was standing in his apartment. She stood near the window, thin and still, as if she had always been there. Her skin shimmered faintly. Not human, not fully solid. Her eyes glowed softly, reflecting light that did not exist in the room. She was not holding a weapon. She did not move toward him. She looked afraid. Rainwater dripped from her hair onto the floor. Her clothes were strange, smooth, and torn in places. A faint blue light pulsed at her wrist, broken and sparking. Ethan stepped back, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. His mind searched for words, but found none. Every instinct screamed to run, but something stopped him. It was the way she looked at him, not like a hunter, but like someone who had finally reached safety. She took one slow step forward, then another. Her movements were careful, as if she feared the air itself. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice soft and broken. His name landed in the room like thunder. He stared at her, frozen. "How do you know my name?" he asked, his voice barely working. She swallowed, her glowing eyes lowering. "I followed you," she said, struggling with the words. "All the way home." Ethan's knees felt weak. "From where?" he asked. She looked up at him then, and the light in her eyes grew brighter. "From very far away," she replied. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Inside, the world Ethan knew cracked open. If you enjoy slow suspense stories like this, gently consider subscribing to this channel, so you do not miss what comes next. The girl took a shaky breath and spoke again. "I crossed the stars for you," she said, and in that moment, Ethan understood one terrifying truth. She had followed him across the stars. Ethan stood frozen as the alien girl swayed on her feet. The faint light in her eyes flickered like a dying flame. Before he could speak again, her legs gave way. She collapsed onto the floor, her body hitting softly, almost gently. The blue light on her wrist sparked wildly, then dimmed. For a long moment, she did not move. Ethan's fear battled with something else. Concern. He stepped closer, slowly, carefully, as if she might vanish if he moved too fast. She's not human, his mind screamed. Yet she lay there helpless, small, and fragile. He knelt beside her, keeping distance. Her skin felt warm when his fingers brushed it, not cold or sharp like he expected. She breathed, shallow and uneven. The strange device on her wrist was cracked. Thin lines of light leaked from it like broken glass. Every few seconds, it made a soft sound, weak and uneven. Ethan pulled his hand back quickly. Technology like that did not belong on Earth. It looked damaged, burned, pushed past its limits. The girl stirred, her fingers curling slightly. Her eyes opened halfway, glowing faintly. She looked at him and flinched, fear flashing across her face. "I won't hurt you," Ethan said without thinking. His voice shook, but the words felt right. He raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. She watched his movements closely, studying him, learning. After a long pause, she nodded once, weakly. "No attack," she said in broken English, the words uneven and slow. "I promise." Relief washed over Ethan, sharp and sudden. He had not realized how tense his body was until that moment. He swallowed and tried to calm his breathing. "You're injured," he said, gesturing toward her wrist. The device sparked again, then went dark. Her expression tightened with pain. "System failed," she whispered. "Protection gone." Ethan helped her sit against the couch, keeping his movements gentle. She watched him the entire time, not trusting, but not resisting. "My name is Ethan," he said carefully. "I live here." She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. "I know," she replied. The words sent a chill through him. She rested her head back, breathing slowly. "I was sent to observe," she said. "Your species." Ethan frowned. "Observe humans," he repeated. "What?" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "Study behavior," she said. "Decision later." "What decision?" Ethan asked, his voice low. Her eyes met his again, glowing a little brighter. "Classification," she replied. "Value." The room felt suddenly smaller. The rain outside grew louder. Ethan felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. "What went wrong?" he asked. She looked at her broken device, then at him. "I deviated," she admitted. "I chose." "You chose what?" Ethan asked. She took a shaky breath. "I chose you," she said. The words hit him harder than fear ever had. "Me," he whispered. "Why me?" Her gaze softened. "You helped," she said slowly. "Before." Ethan's mind raced, searching memories. Moments from his past surfaced. Small things he thought no one noticed. "You stopped for the crying child," she said. "You returned the lost wallet. You spoke kindly when you were tired." Ethan stared at her, his chest tight. "No one knows those things," he said. She tilted her head slightly. "I watched," she replied, "for a long time." A cold realization spread through him. She had not just followed him tonight. She had been there before, unseen, silent. "Why tell me now?" Ethan asked. Her fingers tightened against the floor. "Because time is ending," she said. "Evaluation near." The blue light on her wrist flickered one last time, then went dark completely. She gasped softly, pain crossing her face. Ethan moved closer without thinking, supporting her. "Stay awake," he said urgently. "Please." She looked at him, truly looked at him. Fear and hope mixed in her glowing eyes. "You must know," she whispered. "Know what?" Ethan asked. She leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "Your species," she said, "is about to be judged." And as the words settled into the air, Ethan realized that the fate of humanity might already be standing in his living room. The room stayed silent after her words. Only the sound of rain tapping against the window filled the space. Ethan sat across from her, trying to understand something far bigger than fear. After a moment, he stood and moved toward the small kitchen. He filled a glass with water and placed it gently near her. Then he returned with a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She stiffened at first. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she relaxed, confused by the simple act. "You are cold," Ethan said. "You need rest." She touched the blanket slowly, feeling the warmth, as if it was something new. This behavior, she said softly. It is not expected. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? She sat up straighter, forcing herself through the pain. My species, she began. We observe many worlds. She paused often, choosing words carefully. Civilizations are measured, she said. Strength, logic, control. Ethan listened without interrupting. The weight of her voice filled the room. Humans, she continued, are considered weak. He felt the word hit him, like a quiet insult. Weak how? He asked. Emotion, she replied. Attachment, fear, compassion. She looked at her hands. These traits are seen as failures, she said. Dangerous. Ethan leaned back. So Earth was marked, he said slowly. She nodded once. For evaluation, she replied. The rain outside grew heavier. Lightning flashed across the sky. For a moment, the city looked unreal. I was sent as an observer, she said, not an invader. Her eyes met his. My task was simple, she said. Watch, record, report. And then, Ethan said, and then I broke protocol, she admitted, her voice lowered. I interfered. She explained how she had lived unseen among humans, watching their routines, their mistakes, their kindness. She watched wars and disasters, but also forgiveness and care. You cry, she said quietly, even when no one sees. Ethan swallowed. That makes us human, he replied. She shook her head slowly. To us, it made you unpredictable. She told him how her species believed emotions clouded judgment, how mercy weakened survival, how empathy slowed progress. Then why me? Ethan asked again. She looked at him carefully. Because you contradict the data, she said. She spoke of the night he helped a stranger without reward, of the time he stayed with a dying neighbor, of small moments that never appeared in official records. These actions, she said, they serve no advantage. So why do them? Ethan asked. Her eyes glowed softly. That is what I tried to understand, she replied. Ethan stood and turned on a small lamp. Warm light filled the room. He placed a simple meal on the table, bread and soup. You need energy, he said. Eat. She stared at the food, confused, cautious. You gain nothing, she said. I don't need to, Ethan replied. She hesitated, then took a small bite. Her expression changed instantly. Not from taste, but from realization. You share resources, she said slowly, even with a stranger. Yes, Ethan said. She shook her head, overwhelmed. In my species, she said, such behavior is illogical. She struggled to describe what she felt. Not fear, not pain. Something deeper. This warmth, she said softly. It disrupts my reasoning. Ethan smiled faintly. That's empathy, he said. She repeated the word carefully. Empathy. For the first time, her voice trembled. I believe humans are different, she admitted. Not weak. The device on her wrist suddenly flickered. A sharp sound cut through the room. Her body went tense. She looked down, panic flashing across her face. No, she whispered. What is it? Ethan asked, standing quickly. Her device lit up with symbols he could not understand. A pulsing signal spread across its surface. She tried to shut it down, but it did not respond. My ship, she said urgently. It detected deviation. Ethan felt a chill spread through him. What does that mean? He asked. She looked up at him, fear fully visible now. It means they found me, she said. The signal grew brighter, steadier, louder. They are coming, she whispered. And far above the rain-covered city, something ancient and powerful began to turn its attention toward Earth. The light on her wrist grew brighter, then steady. A low sound filled the room, deep and mechanical. It felt wrong, like the air itself was being scanned. Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. What is happening? He asked. Her breathing became fast and uneven. They have entered orbit, she said. Tracking units deployed. Far above the city, unseen by human eyes, dark shapes slid silently through space. They moved with purpose, cold and precise. No lights, no sound, only intent. Across the world, government satellites picked up something impossible. Signals without origin. Objects without known speed or design. Alarms sounded in quiet rooms filled with screens. Men and women stared at data they could not explain. Orders were whispered, then shouted. Back in the apartment, the alien girl clutched her head. "They will search," she said. "Everything." Ethan moved toward her instinctively. "Search for what?" he asked. "For me," she replied, fear shaking her voice. "And for anyone who saw me." The word hung heavy in the room. "Erase," she added softly. "Witnesses are removed." Ethan felt cold spread through his chest. "They kill people," he said. She nodded slowly. "Efficiently." A distant hum rolled through the city. So low it felt more than heard. The lights flickered again. The rain outside suddenly stopped, as if cut short. "They are mapping," she said urgently. "Street by street." Ethan grabbed his jacket without thinking. "We're leaving," he said. She stared at him, stunned. "You should not," she said. "You are not involved." "I am now," he replied. He opened the door and looked down the empty hallway. "Can you move?" She hesitated, then nodded, pushing herself up despite the pain. Her steps were unsteady, but she followed him. The elevator doors opened again. This time, Ethan did not look at the mirror. He pressed the button repeatedly, impatient. As they descended, a sharp sound cut through the building. Glass cracked somewhere below. The hum outside grew louder. When the doors opened, they ran. Out of the building, into the night. The city no longer felt normal. Streetlights flickered in strange patterns. Cars stalled in the road, engines dead. People stepped out of buildings, confused, pointing at the sky. Ethan pulled the alien girl close, guiding her through side streets. "Keep your head down," he said. She watched him as they ran, noticing how he placed himself between her and others, how he chose darker paths, safer corners. "This makes no sense," she said between breaths. "You risk everything." "That's what people do," Ethan replied, "when someone needs help." Something screamed overhead, a sharp cutting sound. A beam of pale light swept across the street behind them. The ground cracked where it touched. "They are close," she said, panic rising. They ducked into an alley, pressing against cold brick walls. The light passed overhead, slow and searching. Ethan held his breath. The alien girl trembled, not from fear alone, but from something else. "You should have left me," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "No," he said simply. The light moved on, disappearing into the clouds. The hum faded slightly. They ran again, faster now. They reached the edge of the city, where buildings gave way to old warehouses and open land. The air felt clearer, but danger felt closer. She stumbled, nearly falling. Ethan caught her, lifting her without thinking. He carried her as if she weighed nothing. Her glowing eyes widened. "In my records," she said softly. "Humans flee." He adjusted his grip, breathing hard. "We also stand," he replied. A flash lit the sky behind them. Something struck the city center, silent but violent. Windows shattered miles away. "They will not stop," she said, despair creeping in. "They do not fail missions." Ethan slowed only when they reached a dark field beyond the road. He set her down gently. "What happens if they catch you?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her voice was steady now, filled with terrible certainty. "If they find me," she said. She paused, listening to the distant hum returning. "Earth will fall." The field was silent, but the silence felt wrong. Ethan stood still, listening, his body tense. The alien girl lifted her head slowly, eyes glowing brighter than before. "They are here," she whispered. Nothing moved. No lights, no sound. Yet the air felt heavy, like pressure before a storm. Ethan scanned the darkness. He saw nothing, but his instincts screamed danger. A soft crack echoed from the distance. Then another, closer. The ground trembled beneath their feet. "They hunt quietly," she said, fear tightening her voice. No warning. A beam of light sliced through the darkness, thin and sharp. It cut the ground where Ethan had stood seconds before. Earth burned and melted instantly. Ethan grabbed her hand and pulled her down. They rolled behind a broken wall, breathing hard. Another beam passed overhead, missing them by inches. "They know where we are," Ethan said. "They know where I am," she corrected. And you are with me. Ethan peeked over the wall. Dark shapes moved between the trees, almost invisible. They did not walk like humans. The alien girl's hand shook. If they capture me, she said softly, you must run. Ethan shook his head without hesitation. No. She stared at him, shocked. You will die, she said. Maybe, he replied, but not alone. Another blast struck nearby. Stones shattered, fragments flying. Ethan shielded her with his body, feeling sharp pain across his back. She gasped. You are injured, she said. I'm fine, he lied, teeth clenched. For the first time, she looked at him not as a subject, but as something else. Someone choosing danger for her sake. Movement erupted from the darkness. 3 hunters emerged, tall and silent, their armor shifting colors. Their weapons hummed softly, deadly and calm. Ethan's mind raced. He grabbed a fallen metal pipe from the ground. It felt useless, but it was something. The hunters advanced slowly, confident. One raised its weapon toward the alien girl. Time seemed to slow. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between them and her. Stop, he shouted, his voice raw. The hunters paused, not because they understood his words, but because his action confused their logic. Move. One of them spoke, its voice flat and mechanical. Human interference not required. Ethan tightened his grip on the pipe. She's not yours, he said. The alien girl watched, frozen. In all her studies, humans ran from superior force. They begged, they surrendered. Ethan did neither. The first hunter fired. Ethan swung the pipe with everything he had. The blast missed, striking the ground behind him. He charged forward, shouting. The pipe struck armor, sparks flying. The impact did nothing, yet he kept going. More humans appeared from the nearby road, drawn by the noise. A truck driver, a woman with a flashlight, 2 teenagers. They stopped when they saw the figures in the dark. Get back, Ethan yelled. Run. But they did not. Instead, they picked up stones, tools, anything they could find. Fear was there, but so was something stronger. The alien girl's breath caught. They should flee, she whispered. This is not rational. Yet the humans stood together, protecting someone they did not understand, facing something they could not defeat. The hunters recalculated. Their formation shifted. Targets multiplied. A blast hit the truck, flipping it onto its side. Fire spread quickly, lighting the field. In the firelight, the alien girl saw human faces filled with fear and resolve. Ethan fell to one knee, exhausted and bleeding. Still he tried to rise. Still he refused to back away. The alien girl felt something break inside her. Not fear. Belief. These beings, she thought, they protect strangers. Her wrist device suddenly pulsed back to life. A sharp tone cut through the chaos. Symbols filled the air around her. The hunters froze, lowering their weapons. A new command had arrived. She looked at the message, her glowing eyes widening. Her voice trembled as she read it aloud. Begin cleansing protocol. And in that moment, she understood that humanity was no longer being watched. It was being erased. The message hovered in the air between them, glowing and cold. Begin cleansing protocol. It repeated, steady and without emotion. The hunters straightened instantly. Their weapons shifted shape, preparing for a larger task. Not capture, not removal, but extinction. The alien girl stood frozen. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts collided with each other. This was her duty. This was what she was created for. To obey, to report, to step aside when judgment was passed. But when she looked at the humans around her, something inside her refused to stay silent. Ethan was still on one knee, blood soaking his sleeve. Yet his eyes stayed locked on the hunters, unbroken. He did not beg. The other humans stood behind him, shaking but standing. No armor, no advanced weapons. Only choice. They are not monsters, she whispered to herself. They are not weak. Her species taught that emotion was failure. That attachment led to collapse. That mercy destroyed civilizations. Yet here it was, a fragile species, choosing protection over survival. Her wrist device pulsed again, more urgently. A countdown began, symbols shifting rapidly. The cleansing signal was preparing to broadcast. Ethan looked back at her, Pain and concern mixed in his eyes. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "No one should decide your life for you." She stared at him. "You do not understand," she said, her voice breaking. "If I stop it, they will hunt me." "They already are," Ethan replied. "But you're still here." The hunters took a step forward. The ground vibrated beneath them. The air burned with energy. "Final warning," one of them said, its voice echoing unnaturally. "Observer unit comply." She felt her body tremble. Fear flooded her systems. Survival instincts screamed at her to submit. Then Ethan spoke again, louder this time. "Choose for yourself," he said. "Not for them." The words struck deeper than any weapon. Choose. Not obey, not follow. Her eyes filled with light as something inside her shifted. A line she could never cross back over. She raised her wrist, fingers shaking. Her device resisted her touch, locking her out. Pain surged through her arm, sharp and burning. "Stop," the hunters commanded. Deviation confirmed. She screamed as she forced her mind against the system. Memories flashed through her thoughts. Humans laughing, crying, standing together. She remembered Ethan stepping in front of her. Remembered strangers lifting stones against impossible odds. Remembered warmth. With a final push, she shattered the lock. The device cracked open, light spilling out violently. The broadcast signal faltered. The hunters reacted instantly. Weapons turned toward her. "Traitor," one of them said. Energy surged toward her. Ethan lunged forward despite the pain, shouting her name. The blast struck her device instead. The explosion threw her backward. She hit the ground hard, the world spinning. Her vision blurred. The sky above flickered. The distant hum of the fleet stuttered, then weakened. The cleansing signal died mid-transmission. Silence fell across the field, heavy and unreal. The hunters froze, recalculating. Their command structure scrambled. Orders conflicted, systems delayed. Ethan crawled to her side. He held her carefully, afraid she might break. "Stay with me," he whispered. She struggled to open her eyes. Pain coursed through every part of her body. But she smiled, faint and real. "I chose," she said weakly. The hunters stepped back in perfect unison. A new signal appeared above them, colder than the last. Her device flickered one final time, barely alive. She read the message, her breath catching. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "I am marked." Ethan shook his head. "For what?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes glowing softly despite the pain. "For betrayal," she said. "For protecting you." High above Earth, far beyond human sight, a vast intelligence adjusted its focus. A single name was removed from its ranks. The observer was no longer an observer. She was now something far more dangerous. She was a traitor. The night sky changed first, not with fire or noise, but with silence. High above Earth, unseen by human eyes, the alien fleet slowed. Massive shapes paused at the edge of orbit. Their formation broke, one by one. Commands flashed across their systems. Orders recalculated. The mission no longer aligned with certainty. The cleansing protocol had failed. The observer had interfered. The data was no longer pure. Slowly, reluctantly, the fleet turned away. Dark shapes faded back into the deep black of space. Earth was no longer marked for destruction. On the ground, the strange hum vanished completely. The sky returned to normal, clouds drifting quietly. Emergency lights across the city flickered back to life. People looked around in confusion. Some blamed storms. Others blamed power failure. No one understood how close the world had come to ending. In the dark field beyond the city, Ethan sat on the cold ground. He held the alien girl gently as her breathing steadied. The hunters were gone, their bodies dissolving into nothing. "It's over," Ethan whispered. "They left." She nodded weakly, feeling the truth through fading signals. "Yes," she said. "For now." Her body shimmered faintly, unstable. The light in her eyes dimmed and brightened unevenly. Ethan noticed and felt fear rise again. "What's happening to you?" he asked. She looked at her hands as they slowly lost their solid shape. "My systems are failing," she said softly. "I cannot stay." Ethan's chest tightened. "You're dying," he said. She shook her head. "Not dying," she replied. "Returning." she explained slowly, each word costing effort. Her species would never allow her to remain on Earth. If she stayed, they would come again. The safest choice, she said, is distance. Ethan looked away, anger and sadness mixing together. So that's it, he said. You save us and disappear. She reached out and touched his hand, warm and real. You saved yourselves, she said. I only learned. The first light of morning crept over the horizon. Birds began to sing, unaware of what had passed. Life continued as if nothing had happened. I watched your world, she said. I judged it by rules that were never meant for you. She looked at him one last time, her eyes soft and clear. You fight not because you are strong, she said, but because you care. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. He did not try to hide them. Will anyone ever know? He asked. She smiled sadly. No, she said, and that is why you will survive. A faint light formed behind her, a tear in the air itself. Her escape signal, weak but enough. Time was running out. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling, for choosing me. Ethan shook his head. For choosing us, he replied. She stepped back toward the light, her form becoming less solid with each step. Yet her presence felt stronger than ever. One human, she said softly, changed the fate of an entire world. And one alien, Ethan replied, his voice breaking, showed us what we already were. She paused at the edge of the light, turning back one final time. I will remember, she said. Then she was gone. The light closed. The field was empty. Ethan sat alone as the sun fully rose. The city in the distance woke up, busy and unaware. News would talk about storms, power failures, strange lights. No one would speak of judgment. No one would speak of fleets. No one would speak of how close the end had come. Ethan stood slowly and walked back toward the city, carrying a secret no one else could understand, a truth too big for headlines. High above, far beyond Earth, a record was updated. Humanity was no longer listed as weak. It was listed as unpredictable. And in the quiet space between stars, one alien carried a memory she would never erase, the memory of a species that protected strangers. One human changed the fate of Earth. One alien learned what humanity truly means. And somewhere in the universe, the judgment was no longer certain.